And if not, I'll shut it down when we start it. And so she can't do that. Zion. All the property a woman has, whether it's nichse baza, which we said means that the husband, that the property is evaluated as such, and the husband owes her that money if the marriage dissolves, or nichse, which means the woman owns it, except the husband has the right to use the benefits from it. How about the husband has the rights to the payers, what it produces in her lifetime. If she passes away in her husband's lifetime, the husband gets everything that we said in the first halacha. He inherits her. And therefore, if the woman sells nichse milug after she gets married, right? She has a field which the husband, she owns it. The husband uses the produce. Then she goes and she sells it to somebody. Even though those nechasim, let's say that field, she got them before she was mekudeshes. The husband says to this guy about the field, listen, sir, the produce it produces is mine. So my wife only had the right to sell you the actual field itself, but the right to use the field, it was never hers, so that she can't sell. So I'm still using the field. The karka itself, the husband can't take. But the usage of the field, that's still his. He is the one who has the right to use it, to build on it, to build houses or whatever it is he can do on the field in his wife's lifetime, he can still do there. Because the husband does not have has no right to the actual karka itself until she passes away. So when she sells the property, the husband uses it. The husband uses the property of his wife. When she sells it, he still gets to use it. So what did the buyer buy then? If she passes away in the husband's lifetime, the husband gets to take the property without money from the buyer, the way he would if his wife still had it. And the fact that the guy paid for it, that's his. It was his choice. Now, however, if the actual cash that he used to pay for the property is still kayam, that taka has to be returned. Then you can't say, hey, maybe my wife got these because she found them. That's not the case. We assume that if it looks like it's the property, it's the money that was actually paid for, we assume it's such and he has to return that. But if it was changed, if it exchanged different currency, then the guy loses the money. If, however, he passes away, at that point, the woman has the right to the nichse milug that she brought into the property. So now her sale is complete, and the guy who bought it gets to have the field in totality. Ches. When this is above applied, these are the chasim that the husband knew about. So the husband knew about them, and therefore, when they're sold, the sale is only legitimate in the sense that if the husband passes away first, it's completed. Otherwise, though, the sale is not legitimate. It doesn't have any real status to it. Meanwhile, if, however, the wife had gotten the chasim, let's say by Yerusha in a different country, the husband had no knowledge of them, and she sold them, but the husband didn't know about the whole story, that sale is binding. So in other words, the husband's awareness of the property is an important factor in his kinyan of the property. The Mefarshim on the Shulchan Aruch have a lot to say about this whole thing. The Mekudeshes who sold property before she was Nesuyin, which is allowed to sell, the sale is legitimate. The husband only gets the wife's property after the Nesuyin, but the Kedushin does not give him any property. Tess. A woman who writes a contract to somebody else and makes it just a kedushin? No, nothing at all. Also not. No, but what does the husband get from his wife's property by the kedushin? Nothing at all. It's the nisuyin that makes it. No, also not. We said before by the nisuyin, right before the nisuyin, when she's given over for nisuyin, that's when Misha happens. But stam the kedushin, that doesn't do anything in terms of monetary.
The first in the Aleph it said clearly about Kedel Polad Mizresh, the Afal Pisha Dayalim the Consul Chupu.
Yeah. No, but that's provided that she's been handed over for the purpose of chuppah. Stam the kedushin. Right, exactly. Now, what's the gather of handing over when the traveling? That but stam the kedushin itself. Right. Yeah. Tess, a woman who writes to somebody else in a contract that says everything I own belongs to you, and she makes a keen, let's say even. Whether it's a relative, a stomach person, before she's nisuyin, even though if she gets divorced or she's widowed, the retroactive, the whole matana is batal. Like matana, explain the laws of matana, because the whole reason why she did this is to prevent her husband owning the property. in the event that she gets divorced or widowed, she wants her property back from this guy. So nevertheless, in Habal Eichel Perisayan, even though the matana is bottled ultimately, if she gets divorced, still so therefore it's not a full matana. So she has some rights to it because she's going to get it back in the future if she gets divorced. The husband still has no rights to this property to eat the payers. If she passes away in his lifetime, she doesn't inherit. The husband does not inherit it. She gave it to somebody else before Nisuyin, and at that point, if she passed away before him, the matana is finalized, and that person gets to keep it. If she passes away in her husband's lifetime, at that point, the guy will get it completely. Not only that, even if she gives part of her property or part of her belongings, or even all of them before the Nisuyin, because of Makabel, she writes to the Makabel as follows. Not that if I get divorced or widowed, the matana, excuse me, in the previous halacha, she didn't write anything. She just gave it to him. She gave everything to this person. We assume the whole purpose is the husband shouldn't inherit and shouldn't get her things, and therefore, if she's divorced or widowed, she gets it back. Over here, she writes with Feish, be all my property today retroactively. Whenever I say green light, that's when you'll get it. Retroactively to now. In which case, she doesn't. The person is not kainit b'chal until she explicitly says so. So it's a more iffy gift. Still in habal eichel peres matana. The husband still has no rights to it. To be amazing if she dies, and he doesn't inherit it. Yud. So this is the way you get out of the possibility of the husband having her property. Okay. Yud. Shemeres yavam. Shemeres yavam. Right. The husband passed away with no children. Now she's waiting for the brother to do yibum or chalitza. If while she's waiting for the husband to decide if he wants to give him a chalitza, she makes money, she gets a yerusha, she finds something, she can sell that stuff or give it as a matana to somebody else. The yavam is not entitled to the payers of those things. She gets a field, let's say, the yavam doesn't get the payers. Even nichsit barzel, which she brought to her husband, and now that he passed away, that's ultimately going to go to her second husband, now the brother. In the event he doesn't get the payers of that property until he actually marries her. But until then, the brother gets nothing. He's not entitled to it until he marries her. Now she passes away while she's waiting for the brother to make up his mind if he wants to give her chalitza. Then who gets her property? So Yashem, in other words, remember over here she was in a limbo state. She was supposed to get ksuba from her husband in the event that the brother does chalitza. She gets ksuba from the estate and the chitrim barzel. But if he marries her, then who gets the chitrim barzel? The brother. But while they make up their mind to give him a chalitza, she passes away. So who gets everything? So Yashem, so they split it basically. Her father's house inherits chitrim mulug, which is mamish hers. The husband got the payers, but it belonged to her, so her Yashim get it. The chitrim barzel, and half of the chitrim barzel. The Yashim of the husband inherit her ksuba, meaning they don't pay the ksuba. The chitrim barzel, and the other half of the chitrim barzel. The and the husband's family has to bury her, not her father's family, because since they inherit the right to the ksuba, or to not pay the ksuba rather, corresponding to that, they have to pay for a burial. Yud Aleph. Shemeres Yavu, a woman's waiting for Yibam or Chalitza, Ksubasa al Kol Nichse Baila. Her ksuba is basically, there's a lien from her ksuba on all her husband's property. Even if the Yav ends up marrying her. So that property that the brother gets from his brother is designated for her ksuba. Now, obviously, it could be worth much more than the ksuba, but it's all there's a collective lien on that property towards her ksuba. Therefore, the Yavam has no right to sell any of his brother's properties before or after Yibum. I'm not sure the Rambam has to mention before Yibum because it's pashut. Okay, if he did do what he's not supposed to, he went and sold or gave as a gift, or he divided with his brothers the estate of his deceased brother. Before after Yibum, what he did is worthless. The entire property is this chayiv is obligated to be available to pay for a ksuba. Therefore, whatever he does in that property is of no use. So it turns out that whatever she brings into the marriage from the husband's property, the Yavam can never ever sell any of that, apparently, the whole entire lifetime. It has to always be available in the event that he passes away before her or divorces her, and therefore she has to have a ksuba available, even if it's worth 20 times more than a ksuba. Okay? If the Yavam decides to do Yibum, not Chalitza, so he marries his brother's widow, and his brother had a field, and the field that's has a wheat field, and the wheat was attached to the ground. And we're talking about a case where it was like not ready to be cut yet. It still needed the ground it had to have the ground to benefit from it. So in other words, on the one hand, what do you do that with that wheat crop? On the one hand, it needs the ground, so it's karka, which means it's part of the karka. In which case, it goes not metaltalin. In which case, it's supposed to be available for it belongs to the husband essentially. Or if it's metaltalin, so then then it has a different halacha at that point. So let's see what he says, right? So you should sell the wheat, sell the peiros, sell the wheat. The karka, buy karka with it. The yavam eats the peiros. Now that's how you put this in the estate. So in other words, it's basically her property, or it's the property of. You can't completely sell the wheat because it's like all the property. It's available, has to be available for the ksuba. But so what you do with it? Because the wheat is going to go bad eventually. So you buy property, and the property is available for the ksuba, and the yavam eats the peiros like regular property. Gimel. If you left produce that was already detached from the ground, so let's say he left cash or movable property. It all goes to the brother. He uses it as he sees fit. She can't protest. So karka he can't sell. He can't sell any of this stuff either, but he can use it however he wants. Because remember, the metaltalin is only available to repair ksuba, not based on the Gemara. It's only based on the kind of the Geinim. And the kind of the Geinim that makes sure that all the metaltalin available for ksuba doesn't have the ability to say the brother is not allowed to use the property, and he can't do any dealing with them. So it sounds like he's allowed to sell. Or at least he's allowed to use the metaltalin, even if his regular usage makes it go down in price. Could be he's even allowed to sell it. I'm not sure. Okay, you're doubt. Because he says to do business with them. It sounds like he's buying and selling. So okay, I'm not sure what's the din. Can the yavam actually sell the metaltalin? It's mashma that yeah. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't see the.
Footnote 29.
No, that's the previous halacha though.
If it's mechumah karka, still considered metaltalin.
That was halacha base. So we said, no, that's considered karka. That's why you have to buy property with it, and then the husband can use the peiros, but you have to buy property. Okay, you doubt. Yavam who did not have a ksuba. Let's say, for example, she was mekudeshes, and then after the ksuba, she passed away. The husband passed away after the mekadesha. She's still mechuyev yibum chalitza, but of course there's no ksuba because the ksuba only comes by the suing usually, unless the person decided to write a ksuba. So she has a regular wife, but she forgave her husband the ksuba. She was meichlet, and then he passed away. Now she's yavama. She. Right, the yavam is the husband's property, because we said the whole reason why he can't do anything with it is because it has to be available for the ksuba. There is no ksuba over here, and then he can sell and buy what he wants. When he does yibum, he has to write her a new ksuba as opposed to the ksuba of the brother being the ksuba he so to speak assumes. He has to write her own ksuba of 100. Why 100? Okay, because she's a bula. Or if the husband passed away right after being a kadisher, it'd be 200. Okay, but he has to buy a ksuba of 100 in the normal case. In most cases, and his property is now available to that ksuba, as is a regular case of a woman who mechuyev ksuba. Okay, that's vav. A woman who sold or gave a gift after she got married of Nichtzin Barzel, right? She bought into a property worth $1,000, and they made an evaluation. She said, "Okay, this property is $1,000. The woman is entitled to $1,000 Nichtzin Barzel." Then she went and sold the field. Whether she sold to her husband, but to somebody else. She did nothing. The sale is void. Similarly, if a husband sells his wife's property, whether it's Nichtzin Barzel or Nichtzin Malug, because Nichtzin Maluk belongs to her, he can't sell it. And Nichtzin Barzel, even though it's essentially his and he owes her the rights, but he still doesn't have the right to sell it for various reasons. Perhaps also because the whole reason why she brought it into the marriage is he should cultivate the field and produce more wealth for the family and not to sell it. If he sells movable property, that's Nichsin Barzel, right? We have $1,000 antique vase that they write in the ksuba is $1,000 in Nichsin Barzel. So even though the husband's not allowed to do that, if he did sell it, the sale is valid. Okay, so the sale is valid. If they both agree to sell Nichsin, right? We have a used car and they sell it in joint agreement. Whether the guy first bought it from the wife or the husband. So when he buys from both of them, they both agree. Then, if it's Nichsin Mulug, the Mechira is legitimate. The woman who sells or gives Nichsin Mulug, she has his field, it's her field. Husband has the rights to the payers, and she gives it to him or sells it to him as a matana. Now it's his completely. The sale or the gift is valid. She can't say when it comes to Nichsin Mulug in this case, when she gave the husband, I didn't make my husband happy. I didn't even want to give it to him. Not legitimate taina. When it comes to anything else, other property, she could say that. Ketzad, for example, a woman who gave her sold her husband, so she gave it or sold to him. And again, remember, the husband owes her that value. In the event that he dies, she gets $1,000 of that field back, right? So, whether it's kakum metalton, or for example, if he designates an address or field, that this is where she's going to collect her super from. And
how did she get it back if she's nasna? She gives it. What's she getting back?
No, so the point is the sale is not legitimate. The sale, when she gives it to her husband, we say the sale is not valid. We'll explain in a second, right? So she gave her, or she sold or gave it to her husband. This is Nichsin Barzel. It belongs to, essentially, she brought into the marriage. We evaluate it as $1,000 in the ksuba, of which she's going to get the $1,000 back, either in cash or from this item property, if the event he divorces her or widows her. And or for example, if she does this to a field that he says this is your field for your ksuba, if you ever collect it. Or it's a field that he writes, mentions specifically in her ksuba, as he's matana to her, I think. In other words, if I divorce you, then you're getting this field as part of your ksuba. Or a field that he brings into the marriage. So all these cases, she's selling or giving this field back to him. The husband does not inherit it. She has the right to say that I just did it to make him happy, but I didn't really have intent to be a legitimate sale. Even though he made a kinyan, whenever she says, I change my mind, she can have it, she can take it back. Yeah. She only gave it or sold it to him the purpose of shalom bayis. A husband never has the right to say, I have a proof that this is mine. My wife sold it to me. Here's the contract. Here's the edim. There's no such thing. The husband can never bring a raya that his wife's property is his. The exception being nichsin mulug, as we said, that nichsin mulug, which is again belongs the actual product, the actual item belongs to the woman. The husband has the right to use it. That she has the right to say that if she gives it to him, it's a good sale because she doesn't have to say, she can't say, this didn't make you happy. Why do you make him happy? He has the right to use it. What else does he want? So therefore, that's a good sale if she sells it or gives it. Good test. Nichsin barzel that got lost or stolen. The woman says, you know what? I forgive you. You tried, whatever. The lock you bought on the garage wasn't good. It's fine. You don't have to pay me anything. And they make a kinyan. It seems to be Rambam says she can't say I just did it to make him happy. It actually is a legitimate mechila, and therefore he does not owe her to pay back that nichsin barzel. If he divorces her, those $1,000 of nichsin barzel are lost. To what can this be compared? The situation where they kind of from the woman, like they make a kinyan, her word that she has no. That, for example, let's say the husband says this nichsin barzel is too expensive, it's too much of an anxiety for me to watch. I want you to promise me that if it does get lost in the future, you are going to forgive me the obligation to pay it back. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The husband says, "This is the chassan that we said nichsim barazel. I want an agreement from you, shake hands, that instead of me having the achayas and nichsim barazel, it's nichsim ulug. So it's yours now." So in the event that they get lost, it's your field that got flooded. Not my field. I'm not paying you anything. I'll use the payers. So in that case. So in that case, we do say it's legitimate. So even though yesterday, if a flood had happened, the husband would be chayav to pay back $1,000 still because he's promised $1,000 because that's what the field is worth. And they got married. Now that's her field. If it gets flooded, he pays her nothing, and that's considered a good deal. So if it gets stolen, and he says that she makes a kinyan that he's not chayav to pay her back, it also is legitimate, and therefore the husband pays nothing. The husband's not trying to bring a raya to take anything, or the hachzik with the chasam or to keep anything. He's trying to only simply not have to pay anything, and that's something that her giving her word with a kinyan is effective. If she gave him a matana of a tal and certain barrels which are extended in the house, like kana, that doesn't work. She could say, I simply gave it to make him happy. So if it's that example I give with the $1,000 antique vase, so then Taka would say that the matana is not kaim. She could say, I want it back. And if it gets lost or stolen, the husband can't. She has to pay. The husband has to pay her $1,000. He can't say it was mine. I lost my own vase. No, it's still hers. Baal shemachal karka payday is his husband who has a karka. And we're talking about nichseit malug, I think. I'm sorry, where? What?
It's nice.
That's what he says in the
beer, right in between, right there.
Which property? Yeah. So right. So so it's his property. Okay. So Baal Shemachal Peres the karka Peres. The husband sells the karka for the produce. Right, so therefore the husband has the property still, and the guy who he sold it to, he gets to use the field. We also he did nothing. Yeah. So this is not his property. He's probably whatever he wants. The word is this is nichsei malug. This is nichsei malug that belongs to, or this is nichsei barzil, right? That belongs to the husband. And he says to somebody else, okay, now I'm selling the field to you, so you could use the karka. That doesn't work. Why? The whole reason why the husband has the right to use the benefits of the field is to bring more wealth into the family. Therefore, if he sells the field to this guy to use, but he wants to use that money to invest in the stock market because that's going to help the family, he has the right to do that. Okay, chavalaf. The woman had cash. If the cash is in Barzil, so she brings $1,000 in cash. She has to give her $1,000 for the ksuba, right? If they get divorced or he dies. So if it's nichsim barazel, he can do business with the cash. If it's nichsim malug, which means it's her cash, he uses the payers. So you put it in the bank and he gets the interest, for example, right? So whether she brought it into the marriage to him, or she got it as inheritance after they got married. Somebody gave her a gift. Or she not cash, but the property that was given to her as a gift as inheritance. We sell. What do we do with it? So how do we have this arrangement where the ikka belongs to her and the payers belong to him? When it comes to metalton, when it comes to karka, it's very simple. It's her property. He uses the payers. When it comes to cash and produce, you sell it. You lock him in karka and buy the karka. Payers in, and he eats the payers of the property. Chav beis. Now, why can't you just keep it? And usage belongs to him, and the actual item belongs to her. Because the then is more a strong chance of getting lost, and it could go down in value. I guess that's. I mean, if they both agree to do that, because they hate. But the idea is, the woman says, "I have $1,000 here in cash, and $1,000 here of this expensive vase. I'm bringing a metalton into the marriage. How do I know I'm getting anything back?" So therefore, you buy karka, the woman always will have something guaranteed to have. Chav beis, because you can't lose a piece of property, right? A woman who other people damaged her, they hit her, so I'm punching in the face. All the money she's supposed to get, right, from Nezek, What do you do with it? You buy property with it. The husband eats the benefits of the property, which is the laws of damage. Because again, the point is the money goes to the husband, but she was the one who was damaged, so it's considered like basically like she made money in the stock market, and therefore you buy karka and he uses it. Chav Gimel, Naflo Avadim, she inherited servants from her family. Came even though they're very elderly. You don't sell them because of the honor of her father's house. And apparently, it's like a thing that a servant who the slaves who were passed down generation to generation. It's like a bazillion that they should leave the family. This guy was his grandfather. My grandfather's butler. It's like a certain prestige. If she got old olive trees or a vineyard, and she didn't get any property with it, just the actual field itself. But the property, she didn't have any land around the field. Maybe the basic amount to stand there and pick the fruit, but nothing else. So if there was property, so fine. So the property is hers, the husband's payers. There's no property over it. All we have is a tree, or a vine, or a vineyard. So if this tree produces enough produce to pay for its upkeep, you don't sell it. You're breaking even. All you're doing is wasting your time picking the fruit. Because again, it's like a prestige that this was our oak tree for generations. Yeah, not an oak tree. Sorry, olive tree. If not, if it's not even producing enough to pay for its own upkeep, you sell it for firewood. And then buy property with the money. And he eats the payers. So again, the same arrangement that she owns the property, he owns the payers. And if she gets divorced or widowed, she gets the property itself. And if she passes away before him, then he inherits the property. If she inherits a wheat field and it's ready to be harvested, they belong to the they belong to the husband. Oh, sorry, not ready to be harvested. It's still growing. It needs the property. So it belongs to the husband because again, it's considered like property. If it's separated from the harvested already, Shilah belongs to her. It's metalton. You sell it. If you welcome the kaki, buy kaki with it. Again, he gets the payers. Same arrangement again and again, where we want to give the property to her and the usage rights to him, and so that this way, if she passes away, he'll inherit the whole entire property. And if he passes away or divorces her, she gets the karka back. Someone divorces his wife, and she had produce that was attached to the karka at the time of the divorce, though, in other words, he gave it to her as a present, or for whatever reason, in this case, the parents were hers. Usually the parents belong to the husband, but she had parents attached to a piece of property when he divorced her. We say these belong to her. We don't say that it's considered part of the property that the husband keeps. If they were detached, then it belongs to the husband. It's considered like whatever a wife owns. Any talton a wife owns belongs to the husband. The avodim that are nichsim maluk. An animal which is nichsim maluk. Again, that means the actual slave or animal belongs to her. The husband has the rights of usage, or in the case of the animal, milk or fertilizer. The husband has to pay for the food of the servant of the animal and whatever else it needs. And they produce, they work for him, and he benefits from them. And therefore, if a shivcha kananis, that's nichsim maluk, gives birth to a baby, who owns it? Labal gets the payers. In other words, it's actually his, not just the usage. It belongs to him. If the animal gives birth to a baby, labal belongs to the husband. It's like a tree that produces apples. It belongs to the husband. If the woman demands to take the baby of the servant with her, and she's willing to pay for it, but that's because again she wants to keep the offspring of these servants in her father's family, she has the right to it. So it essentially belongs to him. We force him to sell it to her. If she brings into the marriage two identical items or two maid servants, and Nichser Basil, the Shambayis love Be'elav Zuz, and again we evaluate the value of the property is 1,000 zuz. So that's how much he's mechuyev to give back to her if he divorces her or dies. And again, if the actual item is there, and if he can give part of it to her as 1,000, he has to give that to her. So for Hukru v'amdol b'apayim, now these two things are worth 2,000, double the value. Gesh divorces her. She takes one of them that's worth 1,000 now for the 1,000 he owes her as it was evaluated b'shas the marriage. The second item, again, if she wants to pay 1,000, take it with her. For the case of here is a shivcha, I believe, not like Taylor. The shivcha, she wants to pay for it and take it with her again because it wants to keep in the family. Shame to listen to her because again that's legitimate taina. She's paying for it. Good cash. A person gives a gift to his wife, right? Buys her a necklace. Whether he gives her a piece of property or he gives her money. She buys property with it. The husband has no rights to the Paris in this field, or this or the fertilizer or milk of this animal, whatever it is. Because that's the idea of matana. Now it's yours, not mine. If you give a woman a matana and you say a manasi, your husband has no rights to eat the Paris. It should be for her whatever she desires. Again, the husband does not have the rights to matana, to the Paris of this piece of property, this matana. If a woman sells ksuba, means she gives someone else. She sells this in the event that she gets divorced or her husband passes away. So basically, it's a risk. It's a possible risk. He's buying the rights to the ksuba, but lav dafka he'll never get anything because if she passes away before the husband while they're still married, then there's no ksuba. That money is the woman's money. The husband has no rights to it. If the behemoth gives birth, and we said the baby, the calf belongs to the husband, right? And it gets stolen. And then if the Ganav is found, he has to pay kefil. Who gets the money? Hakefil goes to the woman. The baby belongs to the husband. This is not the example of the Paris at the Chum Masakin. This is an unusual case, and this is not something that the Chum Masakin. This type of Paris, this result of the kefil, that's not what the Chum had in mind. Therefore, goes to the woman. The person damages his own wife, right? They get in a fight. He punches her in the nose. Who gets the money? The nezek tzar and the beishas. She gets it. The husband has the right to eat the Paris, which is because it's her money. What about ripoy and sheves? Obviously, the husband doesn't pay her that because he's going to pay for her documents anyways. So what she do? Take out one pocket from the other pocket. And sheves is loss of a wage. Anything money she makes goes to the husband, so it's his loss anyway. So what should he pay? He pays nothing. He pays himself. Chaf tes. Yeah. Someone sells property to his wife. Right? So he has a piece of property, his own property. He sells it to his wife. If the money she used to pay for it was already, the husband knew about it already before, it's a good sale. And the property is the woman's, but the husband has the right to the Paris. If that money was money he never knew about, or it was something he never knew about, it was not available. It was she had to go and, so to speak, pull it out of somewhere where an account that it wasn't available to him. She's not claiming the property because the sale is not legitimate. The husband is going to say, this whole thing I sold it was only a trick to get her to show me the money I didn't know about. That money that we now know didn't know about. Now we know about the husband. What do we do with it? That she was holding property on her, keeping it from her husband. He shouldn't have benefited from it, which is not allowed. So what do we do with that? 815, yeah. So we buy property with it. But Paris and the husband eats the Paris. This is just a whole trick. The husband can say, "I just did it simply to get show me the money," and therefore the sale is not legitimate. If the woman has money or a property in her hand, and she says, "This is a gift someone gave me." When he says, "No, that's you got paid for that, so it's mine." She's believed. He has a right to make a chayim on somebody who's lying, but that's the most he can do unless he makes a tainas vadi. If he says, "I know for sure, I saw you get paid with that money," in that case, she has to make a sure hesas. But here he doesn't know. He's just saying, "May whoever's lying be punished." That's basically what a chayim is. You buy property with it. Eats the Paris. Remember, if she says, "I'm an asking not to leave," they were given to me as a matana on condition the husband should not have any dominion over them. I should do whatever I want with them. As I said earlier, that's a legitimate thing that works, but she has to prove that's the case. Any money that is found in a woman's property, it's assumed to be the husband's with his rights to benefit from the property. Until she proves otherwise. If she says to the husband, this money you gave it to me as a gift. She makes a shvus hesses that the husband gave it to Taka. Then in that case, he does not eat the parents because it's her money. And you don't take if a child, a woman, or a slave says, "Here, do me a favor. This gold watch is mine. Watch it for me." You don't do that. You don't accept it because we assume that they took it from the husband or the father or the master. If a person did accept it from the woman, you should give it back to her. If she dies, give it back to her husband because we assume it belonged to the husband, or we assume it was hers. And whatever a woman owns, her husband owns. Therefore, he inherits it, and therefore it goes to him. If you took it from a slave, give it back to the slave. If a slave dies, give it to his master. If you took from a child, buy a sefer Torah, which is something that lasts for a long time till it becomes an adult, or something he benefit from, but don't give the gold watch back to him, he might lose it. Buy a piece of property with it he can benefit from. If anybody says on their deathbed, shall plain you, this item belongs to so and so, if they were, in other words,
the guy that's dying and saying this thing that this Pekadon belongs to this planet, if he's known to be a number, that's the commission too.
Yeah, right. In other words, someone gave a Pekadon to someone else, and he says the Pekadon that you're watching for me, I gave you to watch for me, says the guy on his deathbed, really belongs to Chaim Yankel. So if the person who has the Pekadon in his hand believes the person on his deathbed that the taka belongs to this person, if he doesn't believe him, he should give the Yerushalayim of this person, right? Because the person on his deathbed is saying it belongs to this person, give it to him. The Yerushalayim is saying, no, it's our father. He has Alzheimer's. He doesn't know what he's saying. Give it to us. So it depends who you believe. If you believe the guy, give it to the person he says. If not, give it to the Yerushalayim. A woman who had money, which was regular case of money, where the husband is supposed to get it to buy car and to benefit from. Or even he says, we should buy this piece of property. She says, no, buy that thing. So how should the best make up shara? Buy something that produces a lot. It's just and is not a lot of not difficult to upkeep. Doesn't cost a lot of expenses. Then show you whether it was him or his desire, her desire. She gives him if you don't buy anything, buy something that gives him means the bark renews. So there was something, not something which would get lost. It's something which can regenerate. Worried that if you buy, let's say you go buy an olive tree. An olive tree could die, and now we have nothing left. Buy something that will always be a piece of property. Something should always have some kind of fundamental value to it. So something left. Something it'll never get lost completely. And the pasuk say this all depends on local custom and what's considered a good buy. The Isha Shechnis Labaila is the chalav of Rachel, the of Dekla Praise of a woman who brings to the marriage her husband a goat to milk, a sheep to shear, or a palm tree for the fruit. Even though she only gets the Paris, she gets the Paris. Why she get the Paris?
No,
I'm sorry. She only gets the Paris, not the Karen. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so he has the right to use it, and if he by usage eventually, like he's using the shovel or not a shovel, whatever he's using, eventually the entire thing gets completely used up. It's not a problem. If he brings it into marriage, the items as in the chsimuluk, he has the right to use it or wear it if it's a garment until the Karen's lost. So it's a shovel. Use it every year to shovel the snow. And eventually, to completely rust and it totally shatters into crumbs. It's not a problem. He divorces her. He's not mechuyev to pay the worn out to the chsimuluk. Even though the husband has the right to, even though the husband has an obligation to essentially, if the property value goes down, he has to pay back, right? Because we evaluate it as $1,000. He has to pay $1,000. If the actual item was extant, it was a little bit worn out, but it still did its original intention. The shovel still works, for example. It tells Caleb she takes it as it is, even though it's much less valuable now. If it didn't do its original value, its original purpose. As therefore, it's as if it was stolen or lost. He has to pay back the full value of whatever we said it was worth b'shas the marriage. Minig pashtu zeh is a standard custom. Whoever gets married, al minig zeh keep a love achayas dunya. This is the assumption which he accepts upon himself regarding the dunya. Just he doesn't have to pay the when it goes down in value. He doesn't take if it goes up in value. If the money goes, if it goes up in value, so the husband has the right to force his wife's servants or his her maidservants that he should serve him or his other wife that he marries, a different house. Whether they Brazil, he cannot, however, take them to a different city without his wife's agreement because they are hers because it's in Brazil or Yismuluk. Either way, it's not allowed.